Hey, what's up guys, Benny here and welcome to another Call of Duty Warzone video. One of the best feelings in Warzone is when you finally manage to pick up that win with your squad, but getting to that point can be incredibly difficult because Warzone's endgame plays very differently to many other battle royales because it can be so hectic. So in this video, I've put together my top 19 tips for Call of Duty Warzone endgame, teaching you everything that I know to help you pick up that win. Many of these tips and tricks aim to change the way you think and look at those endgame scenarios because I see and take advantage of the same mistakes players make all the time. Also, 95.8% of you guys watching this video are not subscribed to the channel, so if you're new, make sure to subscribe and you'll win your next game of Warzone, I promise. So my first tip to help you do better at endgame in Warzone is don't be afraid of the gas. The gas isn't a brick wall that completely cuts off flanking routes. There are many scenarios where you can duck into the gas and use your gas mask to get behind an opponent where they just don't expect you to be. This allows you to pick up some easy kills from an angle the players don't usually expect to be shot from, as they're focused on the inner circle. There have also been times I'll duck into the gas to plate up. Just remember, you can only really get away with this if you've got a gas mask. So make sure to buy one from a buy station if you don't have one towards endgame. It'll end up being more valuable than a UAV. Also, when you take down an opponent in the final circles, most players will have a gas mask, so remember to swap it out to make sure you've got a fresh mask and get the maximum gas time available to you. Also, make sure that you know the routes available to you in the final circle. For example, where you can burst through a door and reposition without an enemy knowing where you are. The worst thing is to get trapped and killed by the gas because you got lost. Another little tip that you can take advantage of in the end circle with the gas mask is to wait until it breaks before you re-enter the circle. This means that you don't have to deal with that animation of taking the gas mask on and off, which can get you killed, as you'll have probably experienced. Now, something that I've started doing towards endgame in Warzone is swapping out my loadout for my endgame setup. Traditionally, equipment like heartbeat sensors are not as effective as most players will have ghost, so you can't completely trust them, but stun grenades will win you matches. No one in Warzone runs TAC-MAP, so you can use stun grenades to pick up those all-important kills, especially in end circles that end up around buildings. And if you use restock as well, you can replenish them and you'll be surprised how much this helps. If you're playing quads, it sometimes might be an idea for 3 players to swap out their heartbeat sensors and 1 to keep it and call out enemies. But you want to make sure that you're using those stun grenades. More importantly, one of the things that I do anytime I get towards endgame is check out the map layout for those final circles and look for positional advantages. The things you want to prioritize is high ground and large amounts of cover where you can move around without getting sniped easily, ideally from the short side of the circle so it's harder for players to get behind you. High ground, whether that's on top of a hill or a building, is one of the biggest advantages you can get in Warzone because you can minimize the amount of your body on view, making you harder to hit, but make it really easy for you to take down an opponent. Remember, high ground is the biggest advantage that you can have in Warzone, as there isn't really any counters, and combine that with throwing down stun grenades, the win is already in the bag. And because map position is so key to success, you're going to want to make sure that you play the circle as much as you can. Don't get stuck on the idea of fighting from a single position and try to rotate early to get the stronger map position instead. Sometimes you're better off dipping out of a fight, getting circle control, and players then have no choice but to run straight towards you, allowing you to get those kills nice and easily. The mistake I've made in the past and seen so many players make is they get so focused on a gunfight and just forget about the zone. Then they either get caught in the gas and die to that, or an enemy team that rotated early and got circle control kills them. It's a lose-lose situation. So be one step ahead and always prioritize map position over getting an extra kill. You'll end up getting that kill anyway, just maybe 30 seconds later. Next, if you're playing squads, you're going to want to make sure that you're focusing targets. What I mean by this is as a team, you can take down players so quickly that they don't even have time to react. So try not to spread your damage around an opposing team. Down a player and take them out of the game. In a team fight, it'll always help you out in the long run, and that's why communication is vital to success. My next tip for endgame is be aware of self-revives. If you can, always have one teammate finish off the kills because it's so easy to get caught out in the hectic nature of the end circles by someone that you think you've downed and they just pop straight back up and shoot you in the back. It's the worst way to lose. And another big mistake players make in Call of Duty Warzone's endgame is kill chasing. They see a red dot on the map and head straight towards them, ditching the other priority choices that they should be making. And that's a big point. Endgame is all about prioritizing your choices to give you the best chance of winning. Just because you see a red dot on your minimap doesn't mean you should rush over there. You should use that more as information on where best to position yourself in the circle, either by reducing the lines of sight that they may have on you or moving into a position where you can pick up those kills. Because believe me, the kills are coming your way. You don't need to rush at them. Just prioritize the circle and map position and you'll rack up a lot more kills and wins. One of the most effective tactics that you can do in Warzone to help you win is to get into the habit of third partying. You never really want to open an engagement unless you're 100% sure that you're going to pick up the kills without taking too much damage, as endgame is also about resource management as plates do run out quickly. So something I try to do is wait for enemy teams to start fighting each other, then I try to get involved from behind them so I can effectively see and shoot both teams without them expecting it. I've always described it as be the bread of a sandwich and never the filling. This will also help you get a load of extra resources from plates to kill streaks and ammo without costing your squad. Sometimes though, you won't be able to help but get into a team fight, which is where trading kills is so important along with player rotation. If you're in a fight and down a player, your armor is more than likely going to be shredded. You then want to effectively swap places with your teammate so you can armor up. Enemy players will then expect that player to have broken armor and rush in, meaning you're more than likely going to get that kill as your teammate will be pre-aiming. Which is also why my next tip for helping you win more games, and is probably one of the most important, is communication. Clear, concise callouts make the world of a difference and is something you'll notice with pro players. The main callouts you want to be saying are armor broken, player down, and squad wipe. It's important to know the difference, as if it's not a squad wipe, you know to look for other players, and if armor's broken, you know to focus that target to get the down to give your team the advantage. The key to success at endgame is all these little things all coming together to make you and your team have the best chance of winning as possible. Another big part of being better at endgame is making sure your squad has kill streaks. You don't necessarily want to all have UAVs, as it's likely a lot of players are going to have Ghost, and just like the heartbeat sensor, I just don't completely trust it when the circle starts getting smaller. So you also want to make sure you've got an airstrike or two being carried by your squad. This is great when the circle gets really small, especially in open areas like farmland, where enemy players don't exactly have anywhere to hide to avoid the airstrike. I've wiped entire squads at this stage with a well-placed airstrike, so make sure to save it for the right moment. It can also be great to force an enemy team off a strong position like a roof, as it's one of the only real counters. Which brings me on to my next Call of Duty Warzone endgame tip. If you see a red dot on the map, either from gunfire or a UAV, use your TAC-MAP and mark the position. This can help you and your team keep an eye on potential enemy positions so you're less likely to get caught out by them. Also, when you're in endgame, you want to change the pace that you play at. You no longer want to be charging in gun-ho, bursting into every building, because you're more than likely going to end up killed. You're up against the best players of the lobby at this stage of the match. You'll be surprised how many more wins and kills you'll get by just slowing down your pace and being really calculated in the fights that you choose to engage, because you're making sure you've got the best map position before you start shooting. This also works when the gas is closing. Hug the walls and slowly move into the zone, waiting for players to jump out of windows because they panic and start rushing towards the circle. The amount of kills I've got from this is mind-blowing. I also can't stress this enough. Resource management at endgame is key. Make sure that all your teammates are at full health. If you've got a spare plate, Spread them among your team. You don't want a player to be without. If you're running an AR and your teammate is running an SMG, make sure you drop them your SMG ammo and vice versa. Sharing is caring and will definitely help you win more games of Call of Duty Warzone. I think this next tip is obvious, but you never want to be in the center of the circle. A lot of players go for it because they think they're not going to have to move as much, but what it means is that more than likely, every team has got some kind of line of sight of you and will end up taking you out. So stick to the circle's edge and use the map to your advantage. Another tip I've got for Call of Duty Warzone endgame is to not just blindly tactical sprint everywhere. The only time you really want to sprint in end circle is to move behind some cover if you're being shot at. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, you make a lot of noise when you're tactical sprinting, and secondly, the time it takes for you to bring your gun up to start firing is a lot higher, which could cause you to lose a gunfight. So, as I mentioned earlier, slow your play down, prioritize map position, and try to third party when possible. My next tip for Warzone endgame is that sound is key. Making sure that you've got a pair of headphones on so you can hear enemy footsteps, silence gunshots, and be able to tell exactly where they're coming from is going to be a big help. So also be aware of the sound that you're making. You can make noise on purpose to bait opponents when necessary, but unnecessary sound is likely going to end up with you being taken out of the game. Another thing I've seen players not do enough, especially when you've got teammates up, is ducking out of a fight. Sometimes the best option you have is to run away and reposition. This not only gives you a chance to play back up to full health, but it'll also likely drag an opponent into a bad position, increasing the chance of you and your team getting the kill. Also, I hope I don't need to say this one, but never stand still. Too many players get an easy kill in Call of Duty Warzone with a sniper because someone is just laying down or standing still behind a tree. Always be moving in some capacity, even if you're just doing small circles or going from standing up to crouching. Just don't make yourself an easy target to hit. And that goes for when you're in gunfights as well or moving across the map. Try to be as unpredictable in your movement as you can. And my last tip to help you win more games of Call of Duty Warzone is not to panic. Take your time and play your game. The reason most players lose in those intense situations is because they try to rush or force a play that just isn't going to happen. Look for those opportune moments to pick up the kills, communicate clearly with your team, and work together, and you're going to have far more success in the long run and get a lot more wins. But there we have it, 19 tips on how to get better at Call of Duty Warzone endgame. Do share your own tips down in the comments below, sub if you're new, and smash that like button, and I'll see you next time for more Call of Duty Warzone content. Bye.